Everyday Greatness, and thanks for joining us. We're coming to you live from the Randwick Club, a sensational community venue in Sydney's eastern suburbs. The Randwick Club are also our episode sponsor for today's interview, and we can't thank them enough for hosting us for this series looking into inclusion in Australian sport. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands these interviews are taking place on, the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to elders, past and present. This series of Everyday Greatness, we're going to be exploring the transformative power of sport and the importance of inclusion. I'll be chatting to champions in disability, First Nations and LGBTQIA+ inclusion. But it's my honour today to welcome the CEO of the Randwick Club, Andrew Crofts, who will introduce our first guest. Andrew, over to you.
Thanks, Barnaby. I'd like to thank our community, firstly, for allowing us to exist and the connection that we have with our community. Without them, we wouldn't be here. I'd also like to thank Barnaby for letting us be a part of this podcast and this session today, especially looking into inclusion in Australian sport. It's my pleasure to welcome Tamsin Colley here, who is one of Everyday Greatness Australia's youngest ever track and field Paralympians. At 14 years of age, you were trying to make your way in the world with cerebral palsy and autism. You've made history by competing in the 2016 Paralympics, which is amazing. Since then, you've continued to break barriers, not only in athletics, but in football, winning Australian Cup with your ParaMatildas. Now, an exercise physiology student, you continue your dedication to promoting inclusion and accessibility in Australian sport.
Thank you.
So welcome. Thanks for letting us be a part, Barnaby.
Thank you, Andrew. Beautiful. And welcome, Tamsin. Tamsin Colley isn't one to rest on her laurels, though. She's still playing football for the Hurlston Park Wanderers. And she just got back from a national para-athletics meet with a handful of medals of all different colours and broke a few records in different events of hers. Today we're going to delve into some of the challenges Tamsin's faced as an athlete, as a student athlete with disability, and how she got through those. So Tamsin, it's a pleasure having you here. Thank you for joining us on Everyday Greatness.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
You competed at a Paralympic Games at 14 years of age. I guess you're in year 9 at high school. Tell me what that experience was like as a young kid.
Yeah, thank you. It was amazing. I'm so grateful to hold the record of the youngest ever track and field Paralympian. I actually celebrated my 14th birthday in Rio, so I got to meet the Governor General at the airport and have an interview with the oldest Paralympian, which was awesome. The atmosphere in the stadium was just electric too. I had a Brazilian in the lane next to me actually, so the crowd went wild and I just used that energy to fuel my performance. And I had a great start and was on track to do a PB and make the final, but I sadly fell over about 20 metres before the line. But I managed to pick myself up and finish the race though, which I think just personifies the resilience that is core to the Paralympic movement.
That answer personifies Australian sport. You fell over, but you didn't sit there and whinge. You picked yourself up and kept on going and finished. Good job. That's awesome. So tell me about the challenges you've faced as an athlete with disability and how did you overcome those? Yeah,
I faced several challenges as a young athlete with cerebral palsy. I actually used a wheelchair and walker to get around until I was 5 years old. But with a lot of physiotherapy and occupational therapy, I improved greatly. And then I was also lucky that my mum is a physio by background, so she introduced me to disability sport when I was 6 years old as a form of rehabilitation for my brain tumour that I had removed when I was a toddler. And it was hard to keep up with my able-bodied peers when I was younger, so I stuck with sports that had disability pathways, such as athletics. And actually in my little athletics club that I went to first, I faced some challenges with trying to find an inclusive club. Like there was people walking across the track before I finished, which was a bit annoying. But lucky I had people around me who persisted in finding me in a supportive environment.
Very cool. So tell me about how the public's perception of disability athletes has changed since you started at Little Athletics as a kid to how it's viewed today.
Yeah, I think the public perception of people with disabilities in sport and stuff has changed greatly, and it's constantly improving. Like previously, there was no competitive pathways for male and females with physical disabilities in team sports, but that all changed when in 2022 the ParaMatildas was launched, which is Australia's female team for females with physical disabilities such as cerebral palsy, acquired brain injury and syndrome stroke. So I was lucky to represent Australia with them in 2023, and I actually scored a hat-trick on debut, which was epic. Yeah.
I know that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And we've got the coach of the former coach, retired coach of the Matildas sitting here, so he'll be spewing he didn't get you on their team. So what you just said about there not being a lot of public media about people with disability when you were younger, who did you hold as a role model as athletes with disabilities when you were a kid?
Yeah, so I grew up watching the Paralympics on TV, obviously when it was on like every 4 years, but there wasn't that many media representation of people with disabilities. But I looked up to people like Kurt Fernley, Louise Savage and Isis Holt, who are prominent Paralympic athletes with physical disabilities. And I'm lucky to be in a position at the moment where I both can inspire the next generation, but also be inspired by other people with disabilities, like seeing them on TV and in the media, which is really special.
That's one of the other cool things about Australia is that you are a bigger role model than you realise. Same as today's Matildas players. They're just off the charts. Young girls look up to you as their hero. And that's really cool, so good job. So you play for the Hurlston Park Wanderers these days. What are they doing in terms of disability inclusion and accessibility that you think is a lot better than it was when you were a kid?
So Hurlston Park have always been real inclusive to me. They were actually the fourth club we tried because not all clubs unfortunately include players with a disability. But it's not hard to just accept players with a disability in your club and just include them in the teams without judgment. They also run an all abilities program, and we earlier this year had a females with disabilities program, as that's an area that really needs more opportunities in that, and we're trying to hold one again soon, which is great.
Now you're a young athlete, but you're also a young human being. How does inclusion in sport and society help your mental well-being as well as your physical? So I think inclusion in sport and society in general really helps everyone's mental and physical well-being. It has really helped me feel more confident in my disability and comfortable with it. And when you're included in mainstream teams as well, it helps able-bodied athletes just not see disability as a bad thing and just like a natural variation in humanity, which it is. So, yeah. Now, I'm sure you watch television. Have you seen the Colgate ad where the deaf AFL player doesn't get to sing the song and feels a bit left out, and they all sing the song in sign, and she all of a sudden feels really included and it's really powerful? Have you ever had any moments of inclusion like that?
I have. So, I honestly can't name one because I always feel really included, whenever I'm with my club or the ParaMatildas, or even with my para-athletics training squad teams, because they have all people with disabilities and we just build each other up and with no judgment whatsoever. It's just so important.
It's a very diplomatic answer.
Yeah.
You should be the Governor General. So how does your training as a para-athlete differ from your training as a para-Matilda?
So I'm lucky to have experienced both athletics and football at even in the international level. I've made for both. They're obviously a bit different sports, being one individual and one a team sport. But both have their benefits to me. I think athletics really feeds into the football and improves that for me, which is great. And I really appreciate the opportunity to play a team sport like football and be just surrounded by other people with disabilities, or like striving towards one goal, which is amazing.
Very cool. Now, I know a lot of able-bodied people who are scared to talk to people with disability because they don't want to offend them. Can you give some advice to coaches or supporters or managers on how to treat people with disability without feeling like they're being rude or patronising? What's the best way to approach a person with disability when it comes to sport?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say people like coaches and teammates should just view people with disabilities as people first. Like, we're no different to you basically, except we have disabilities, which basically just makes it more important for us to get involved in sport for the benefits it provides. And yeah, so people often assume we need a lot of extra adjustments and that it's too hard to include us, but we actually don't need that much often. If you just talk to us and see what we need, then often we just want to be included and not judged for who we are, and just get opportunities to play the sports we love.
It's a very cool answer. Have you seen many initiatives around Australia in disability sport that you've thought are really powerful ways to promote inclusion in sport?
Yeah, there are several initiatives in Australian sport to promote inclusion. One of them that I'm actually involved with is CPSAR, which is the Cerebral Palsy Sporting and Recreation Association of New South Wales, and that provides or promotes sporting and recreational opportunities for people with cerebral palsy and neurological conditions. And then we, as well as some other organisations, run multi-sport days for people of all ages and all types of disabilities to just promote different opportunities for them to get involved. Yeah, and we've seen success with that, which is just really awesome.
So when you started out in disability athletics and football, there were very few role models to look up to, but now the world has Tamsin Colleys to look up to. You are a huge role model. How do you see the next 10 years in inclusion in sport shaping up?
Yeah, thank you. So I think in the future, inclusion in Australian sports will just keep improving, and yeah, we can just build on the representation we have in mainstream media and sport, and I hope we can reach a stage where it's like not heroic to include a player with a disability, and it's just part of the norm, and every club or opportunity has space for people with disabilities. There's definitely the interest there, like 1 in 5 Australians have a disability, and since sport is so common, yeah, people just want the opportunities to get involved. Like, even in the Females with Disabilities program Person Park ran earlier this year, there was someone who said they were looking for an opportunity to play football with people like them for 20 years. So yeah, if you just make some opportunities for them and advertise them out to people, I think, yeah, they'll be more than happy to get involved, and I think, yeah, we can just keep pushing for more inclusion, and hopefully we can, yeah, get there in the end.
Tamsin Colley, it's been an absolute honour chatting to you, and I'm so glad there's people like you that my daughter and my young nieces can look up to. So thank you so much for joining us on Everyday Greatness.
Thanks, it's been a pleasure.
I also want to thank the Randwick Club for hosting us in this incredible venue today, to our live studio audience for joining us. I want to thank the ARA Group for being our major sponsor for the 10th season in a row, to Zach from Dynamic Media for all of your technical work, to Julie from Stronger Than My Excuses for your production work, and I want to thank you all for listening. I hope we've helped make you feel proud again of just being an everyday Joe bag of donuts. Thank you for the laughter. First time anyone's ever laughed at that. I hope you can join us next week, where I'll be speaking to Jared Hodges, the head of First Nations football at the Sydney Swans. We'll be chatting to Jared about how his heritage as a First Nations man has helped his guidance at the Sydney Swans with their First Nations Foundation. We hope you can join us for that one, but if you'd like to see more, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook or YouTube, and subscribe and watch. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you, Tamsin, again.
Thank you.